The Forest is a wholesome game about a dad that loves his son. It starts with you, a nameless dad, and your son, Tim the Tatman, on Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The plane crashes and the red man takes your son. Just like when YouTube took Tim the Tatman away from Twitch. Now you're stranded in the forest. You need to find your son and you need to survive. Eat some airplane food and grab the cool survival axe that was stored in the stewardess. Try out the local mushrooms and find out they're electrified. Open up the survival book. This is your tutorial, building tool, objective tracker, and status tracker. So if you want to know how sane, strong, or infected you are, or what you need to do, the survival book has it all. Except the map, but we'll get to that later. The Forest is a survival game, which means gathering food and water for survival, and resources for crafting and building. Let's start with gathering for crafting and building, because that part contains one of the two strongest parts in this game, the other being the cannibals. There's a lot to cover, so it's hard to pick a place to start, except it isn't because this is the forest, and you have an axe. So the first thing you do is swing that axe at a tree. Before I played this game, I never once thought that tree cutting would be one of the most immensely satisfying experiences I would have in gaming. When you swing that axe at the tree, you see an immediate effect. A small chunk falls out, action and then reaction, and your ape brain goes, ooh. It's like that part of the tree becomes a progress bar that you slowly chip away at, and then you get to see the tree fall down. I think it's a universal truth among humans that we like seeing big things fall down, so I don't think I need to explain why I like this. But you need to keep in mind where that tree is gonna fall, because if it falls down on your buildings, it will destroy them, and that is very soul-crushing. You get logs out of the trees, which you use for various things such as cabins, walls, gates and traps. There's more, but you get the picture. You can get sticks on the ground and from smaller trees, which you then use for smaller building stuff like the log sled, which makes log gathering more efficient, as well as the drying rack and various other resource storage mediums. Sticks are used in almost everything, so there really isn't a point in listing what sticks are for. There are rocks on the ground and I mainly use them for campfires and the fireplace, and ammo for the catapult. In the inventory, you will see that you have your items in your inventory. Wow. In the middle, there is a crafting mat. Drag items there and you might make something. Hover over the gear icon to see recipes for the item. You can make spears, a bow, and a little repair hammer. Also Molotov cocktails, a makeshift explosive, and some bags so you can have more of an item. There is a lot of stuff you can make and a lot of stuff to put in your inventory. At the end of your playthrough, your inventory will probably look like an episode of Hoarders. Okay, let's look at food and water, and this is where you start seeing that this game isn't really finished. The release version of The Forest isn't really finished, it's more of a good enough state of existence. So you have a spear or a bow, time to hunt. I know this looks really dumb, but it actually works. It works the least on the rabbits because they actually run from you, but anything bigger and it's a coin flip whether they run from you or just decide that they like pain and the idea of death. Once you kill the animal, you skin them and you get the meat and skin. With the skins you can make bags and some clothing, but once you have meat you have to cook it. You can either cook it with a fire or hang it on the drying rack and wait for 8 minutes. The meat rack is also your only meat storage option as far as I'm aware, and I really would have liked an additional option later in the game, because my inventory would get full of raw meat and I would want to dry it or at least switch it out with a dried meat on the rack, but I wouldn't be able to, so I would have to make another drying rack. And it would have been nice to have a chest or something where I could just throw stuff in there. Water. So, for water, your first source of water will be soda. It feels wrong to say that, but there is water in this black sludge I drink way too much of. Then there's either the cooking pot or the water collector for clean water. You can just drink straight from the puddle, but that hurts you. There might be chemicals in the water, but I don't have any frogs to test it. If you throw frogs into water and they start having gay sex, then there's chemicals in the water. So, the rain collector. You need sticks and a turtle shell. You have to go Cannibal Holocaust on a turtle to get its shell. Put it together and now you just have to wait for rain. You don't want to wait, so you go take a walk on the beach and discover a campfire with a cooking pot on it. You can't gather water from the ocean because you can't just boil salt water to make it drinkable. I mean, okay, you can, but you need to distill it, which means boiling the water and gathering the steam into another container. Salt water can be lethal, by the way. Feel free to thank me for this piece of information you are very unlikely to ever need. So, no seawater. You have to find a pond somewhere on the island. Common known fact among survival experts is that you can't just walk up to a pond and get water from it. You have to approach it gently, carefully, and from the exact pixel-perfect angle, because otherwise the water will get scared and won't go into your fucking cooking pot. Seriously, why the fuck is it such a problem for me to get water with a fucking pot? You have to be looking in the right specific direction and stand in the right spot in order for the prompt to acquire water to pop up. You go back to a campfire, boil the water, and now you have clean water. But you probably want to store it somehow, and you can with the water skin. You just need 2 deer skin and rope. As covered before, hunting deer is easy, since they probably won't run away. Put the clean water in the water skin, and now you should have a steady source of water and food. You should also have a shelter which you can sleep in. You don't need a bed to sleep, just a shelter. The bed is mainly for custom buildings, but shelters also let you save the game. You can't just press escape and save. And you know, in terms of saving systems, I think this is pretty good. It discourages save scumming and makes you play a little more carefully, because if you could just save at any time, you would say to yourself, might as well go balls to the wall since I can just reload my save. This makes it more like a checkpoint, where you lose some amount of progress if you reload the save. The only real problem I have with the building is that if you didn't finish the building or cancel it, it will always stay on your screen as an icon and always show you that you need materials for it in the bottom left corner. And I don't like that. I wish I could untag buildings or something, maybe remotely cancel them. I think that covers the gathering and building, at least for now. Tree cutting is fine and all, but you're a gamer and you want to kill something, besides defenseless animals. This is where the cannibals come in, or mutants. Take your pick what you want to call them. I just call them the natives. Wow, white guy discovers a new island and starts killing all the natives. What a surprise. Hey, it's not my fault, they started it. They really did start it this playthrough. I tried to live in peace with them, but they wouldn't let me. The first time I met a native, I was hunting and I was like, sure, you can watch me hunt. And he watched for a while, but then he attacked me and I killed him, in self-defense. The encounters with the natives would vary for me. Sometimes they would just watch and then run away. Sometimes they watch and then attack. Sometimes immediately attack and sometimes immediately run. Sometimes I would have to shoo them away by running up to them. The variation is by design. You see, the developers introduced fuzziness into the AI, so the player would never know what to expect from the natives. You could get a grip of some of the standard AI rules, but then comes a native that ignores those rules. So, when you encounter a native, the air gets filled with tension. What will he do? What should I do? Should I attack before he does? but another thing to consider. Natives rarely travel alone. If you see one native, 2 others might be moving behind you to ambush you, and those are largely their battle tactics, grouping up and surrounding you and then finally attacking you when they feel ready. They also sometimes climb up trees. Setting up Assassin's Creed rooftop assassinations, maybe? I'm not falling for it. They attack you and you kill them, again, in self-defense. You're morally justified, maybe. So what do you have at your disposal for self-defense? Well, you have variations of axes to choose from, a katana if you want to be a samurai dad, a spear, aka the baby poker. You can also throw the spears, a bow and a crossbow. Oh, and also the chainsaw. Where do you get these cool weapons? Well, the caves. The forest features a sprawling cave system. The caves are dark and uncomfortable. Oh, and the caves also have monsters. 3 of them. RMC, Virginia, and the little fat boy from Berserk. Oh, and little baby monsters. That's why I call it the baby poker. Yeah, the forest is actually a survival horror game. Body horror, to be specific. There's also a lot of albinoids. You have to go into the caves to progress in the game. You need 3 items from the caves to finish the game, but there are lots of other neat things in the caves you would want, such as the katana and the crossbow or even the map. If there is any useful item you can't craft, then you find it in the caves, and I don't really like that. I would have liked it if I found most of the stuff in the forest, and I would occasionally have to go into a cave. The caves aren't necessarily bad, you just spend way too much time in there. At least 50 to 60% of my time in this game is spent in the caves. Because the surface is very good, the wind, the rustling, in general everything feels pretty good up there. It feels like such a waste to turn that into what ends up just being a platform to find another cave. The ratio of cave to forest needs to be adjusted to heavily favor the forest. I'd hope they do that in the sequel at least. But let's be a little fair to the caves. They are pretty good to go through, but gets boring fast. The caves are somewhat varied in traversal, wherein some you go into them with a long ass rope, and some you squeeze through a crack. And they have water. Oh god, no, I don't want to go into the water again. These water segments. You know how in games the water level is always the worst? Yeah, but it's not that bad really. Okay, I'll admit it, it's kinda cool. The coolest part with the caves are these segments where you go into a cave through water. Or get into a water segment in a cave and then you go through a crack and end up outside again. That's pretty fucking cool, I gotta admit. But the caves is where the lighting started to annoy me. In this game, dark means absence of light, like in real life, which is good, I like that. However, if you don't give me proper lighting options, then the darkness can become an annoyance, which it kinda did. You have this gas station lighter that somehow emits more light than your makeshift torch. What? But you get the flashlight and that's good, right? Not really, no. I found the light from the flashlight to be weird. I don't know how to fully describe it, plus it has this weird outline that I dislike very much, and the batteries for it run out very, very quickly, and less battery life equals less light being emitted, so it becomes annoying to manage. If I wanted a battery management game, I would play Five Nights at Furry's, but the game does provide you with some pretty detailed graphic settings, including a bunch of filters. And I could solve this issue for myself just by changing what filter I was using, and that's great. It gives the player more options for how they want to experience the game. So if you too get annoyed with the lighting, then don't worry about it, you can fix it. Okay, that was a lot of complaining, let's get back to the combat. So we have a bunch of cool weapons now, and you're pretty much in a small war with the natives, the modern dad against Stone Age natives, and their pet body horror monsters. The combat is really nothing special, but it works. It's mostly just positioning and spamming left click. I think you have a block button, but I never used it. There's no dedicated dodge button, you just move out of the way. But the natives, when you damage them enough, they will fall down on the ground and try to recover, and you have to execute them. And I really like this. Not just the psycho execute part, but how fleshed out the natives are and how well they executed the illusion of sentience. It makes it that much easier for you to get immersed. The natives are getting tired of you cutting down the trees, so they sent a squad after you. The squad may have a combination of native variations or natives and monsters, or a squad entirely of monsters. You probably want some defenses when these squads come knocking. Well, you can build a wall to keep your food and water secure, and then outside the wall you can turn the forest into Home Alone Peggy 18 edition. You have the Crusher, the Impaler that they never fell for, this swinging rock trap in the trees, and my favorite, the rope trap. Look at this idiot who fell for it. Tell me this isn't funny. The Crusher trap is the cheapest and works the best, so I used it the most, and this turns the combat into you just baiting enemies into the trap, and then mopping up whatever is left with your weapons. But once combat ends, and everyone else is dead, you have the realization. The natives aren't people, they are actually resources. Burning natives for their bones is a very lucrative activity. Their bones are just so useful. You can make armor, weapons, arrows, and even a chair. Self-defense, by the way, I'm morally justified, shut up. Don't feel bad for the natives. This is what they use to decorate their villages. They are worse than me. Maybe you don't burn the cannibals and instead make an effigy as a warning to the others. Again, in self-defense. If you are desperate, you could cut a leg off a native and throw it on the campfire and then... Okay, maybe I am worse. Hey, there's a story here. Didn't your son get kidnapped? Oh yeah, I guess I should go find him. In the caves and at one time in a village, you can pick up scraps of paper that will have something on it that either Timmy drew or someone that died on the island drew, or wrote down, or even newspaper articles, and emails. And it's usually somewhat cryptic and you have to read into it. This is a story you have to piece together. Here's my interpretation. Ages ago, 3 alien artifacts appeared on this island, and it's not explained where they came from, but I have 3 theories. Supernatural ghost demons or something? I don't know. The artifacts made the natives become weird. Ages later, Christian missionaries visited the island and they started exploring the caves. They ran into a Virginia, got spooked and started closing up the caves. The death artifact and all die. Years later, science men started researching the artifacts and started tests on sick children. Adults too, maybe? Then an RMC broke out of containment and everybody died except the Red Man. Your plane crashed and now you're here. That's the spoiler-free version. You'll get the spoilers at the end of this video. There was one scrap of paper in the caves that I couldn't pick up, and that was infuriating. While I don't engage much with this type of storytelling, I will say that I do like it. It's certainly better than having a protagonist that won't shut the fuck up. I don't think there's anything else I need to cover. I think I've largely covered the gameplay while also leaving some mystery. So it's time for opinions. This started as an early access title, and I said it before, but this doesn't feel finished. It feels more like they said, okay, this is good enough, let's start working on the sequel. There is some amount of polish missing and a feature that was clearly abandoned, and that is the sanity feature. You unlock effigies if your sanity is low enough. It does nothing else. You also have strength and athleticism stats. Strength for melee damage and athleticism for the stamina bar. There is some idea that low sanity could have created audio and visual hallucinations, which would have been cool, but sadly that didn't get implemented. I guess you could call this segment my wish list for the sequel. It's very off-putting for me when a game calls itself finished when there are still weird physics collision things happening, when there is a feature that goes nowhere and areas that clearly could use some work. For example, the lighting. If you want more examples of what's wrong in this game, you can just go to the wiki and read the very long list of bugs and glitches. You could also watch a 6-minute speedrun that uses a variety of glitches. This is modern gaming and there's always glitches and bugs, but I am allowed to be annoyed by it. But despite the bugs, glitches and weird things and cave segments that start to outstay their welcome, I still really like this game. And there are 3 reasons. The woodcutting. I've said enough about it, it's very good. The natives and their AI. They are perhaps the most interesting enemy I have fought in a video game. Not because of their lore or look or whatever, but because of the way they behave. It keeps things fresh and interesting throughout a playthrough. And the third is the horror element. There is a lot of body horror and gore here, but it never really feels in your face. It's just there. The game is never going like, boo! This is a scary game. No, it's just there. And if that's enough to scare you, then, well, I'm not much better. I got jump scared because they added a bunny into Terraria. So, the wish list for the sequel, stated flat out, from what I've seen in the trailers, it's looking pretty damn good. But please actually polish the sequel and do something with that sanity feature and fix the bugs and glitches. And if you're going to have caves or something like that, then please adjust the ratio of caves to forest to heavily favor the forest. And maybe flesh out the combat. Okay, conclusion for this game in the shortest amount of words possible. I like game despite issues because core features were executed really well. Specifically those 3 I mentioned. Okay, we need to go through the spoiler section before I can give it a rating. You probably forgot about Timmy by now, but he's your son and you need to rescue him. There's a huge ass sinkhole in the middle of the map, so of course he's down there. This means going through an extremely long cave, and this was the point where I was like, alright, enough of the caves please. To get to the sinkhole, you go down a bunch of ropes, climb a lot with a climbing axe, go through water sections, fight some enemies and go through intimidating alien doors. Congratulations, you have achieved sinkhole arrival. Now go into the water in the middle and go into a cave in that really cool way. Another cave! Yay! Speed up to picking up a Timmy drawing. I like Timmy's drawings, they kinda tell you what he went through without explicitly stating it. And then you loot the other picture. It's a picture of the key card I found earlier, and you need this card to be able to get through here. So, if you didn't have the key card, you would have to go all the way back and get it, and then make your way back here. And if I didn't have the key card when I got here, I would have rage quit the game. I would have been so fucking mad. Just getting here is trial enough on its own. You don't need to add to it by gating it off with a pretty hidden item somewhere else. Don't fucking do this. Keycard the door, and now Dad is in Science Place. Now the game starts looking more like other survival horror games like Resident Evil or Outlast maybe. But it's a good change of pace and you feel like finally you get some answers. And you do. Here are some questions I had when I got here. Why Ratman take Timmy? Why are mutants everywhere? Why doesn't the torch give proper lighting? That one didn't get answered, but the others did, kinda. Well, I guess I did spoil you earlier when I talked about the artifacts, since they only get hinted at up to this point. But hey, there is still lore that I don't know about, so even now you have some mystery. Anyway, the two other questions have the same answer, Matthew Cross. I found a printed out email that said he was getting fired from the Science People company for unethical and inappropriate use of company equipment. His daughter, Megan, was sick and he needed to save her life. So I think the reason everything went to shit in this place is because of Matthew. He probably orchestrated an armsy breakout so that he could keep working on trying to cure Megan. And yeah, everything truly went to shit. I really like this hallway. You have two heads on a tray in a pretty empty hallway and then you take that right turn. Jesus Christ. You also see some experiments still in containment and just what is this supposed to be? I know that one thing is a part of an endgame enemy called the Worm, but what is this meat wall thing? I'm getting sidetracked. So Matthew Cross activated the EMP artifact to make your plane crash. Then he took Timmy to the Rebirth artifact to cure or resurrect Megan by killing Timmy, transferring his life essence or something to Megan. And that's where you find him, in a pyramid impaler. Dad figures out that he could use the artifact to save him, so he starts looking for Megan. Luckily, there are bloody footprints leading straight to Megan. But where is Matthew? Oh. No. Megan is the boss fight, and I found it to be pretty easy. She is easy to dodge and you can just use the crossbow and never get hit. Megan will give birth to mutant babies, but the mutant babies are never a threat. And yeah, it is pretty gross that this 9-year-old girl is giving birth. That is pretty horrifying. You kill her and bring her back to the machine. The machine rejects her because she is in fact dead, and she drops a keycard. Where exactly was she hiding that? It leads up to the EMP artifact. The third artifact, the Death artifact, doesn't make an appearance by the way, but the consequences of the Death artifact are here, in the form of this nuclear victim storage room. Anyway, Dad makes it to the EMP artifact and has two choices. Shut down the machine or use the machine again to save Timmy by killing another child, along with all the other passengers. The Dad activates the machine, and that is the canonical ending. The Dad is willing to kill hundreds, impale a child, and very likely put Timmy through a lifetime of suffering because he loves him. And that is pretty wholesome. Flash forward to the future. Terrible talk show, and Timmy has a mutation seizure. But the seizure stops when his dad comforts him. Now that's wholesome. Another flash forward to the future, to adult Timmy, where he teases a sequel. And that sequel is looking pretty good. It even has a monster waifu. The Forest is a very good but flawed game. And I hope that developers will rectify their mistakes with the sequel. I give The Forest a begrudging 7.5 out of a possible age restriction. It's been more than a month since my last video, and that's because when I started making this video, I had a Math 3 exam coming up. So I had to stop working on the video to focus on studying, and that worked, since I passed the exam and I never even bought the book. Then the next two courses started immediately, Math 4 and Chemistry 2 at the same time, And the school I was in has it so that a single course is compressed into the span of a month, and usually 2 at the same time. That wasn't really a problem before this, but this time I had Math 4, and the Math 4 is hard. Seriously, I mean it, shit's hard. So pretty much all my time went into getting some grip on Math 4, and then finishing off Chemistry 2 on the weekends. November was not a fun month for me. But school's done, I'm on vacation, and I can stop wanting to die. The next video is on Valheim. I'm Icelandic, so I have the greatest authority of all to review that game. There's a story I heard about the god Loki that I'm gonna include in that video, so subscribe if you wanna see that. And I'll also show off my Viking tattoo.